Hi there, my name is Mia and I am the creator of the Healthy Back program. Today I'm going to introduce you to a tool called the Beam, which is offered by Nimbleback. It is a fabulous, I want to say it's a simple tool, but that doesn't mean it isn't comprehensive. Sometimes the most comprehensive things are very simple. One of the things I love about the Beam is that it's light and it's mobile, so you can take it anywhere you go. You can take it in your car, you could take it camping, you could take it if you were traveling. It works great. What I'd like to do today is actually show you some different ways to use the Beam, especially for those of you that are struggling with maybe getting down onto the floor to do some of the exercises that you've been prescribed. So this is a nice way to do some of the exercises that you may already be doing, or maybe these might be some new exercises with slight modifications or regressions. So I'm going to start by taking this to the wall. And the first thing I'm going to suggest, if you're using this against the wall, is to lower the Beam so that you can actually rest your head against or close to the wall. That way it's going to keep your head and neck in alignment, as opposed to maybe resting the head on the Beam, which for some of you who are very tight in the neck or the scalenes might allow you the opportunity to continue to shorten those muscles, so sort of in a compressed manner. If you slide that Beam down so that your head is in a neutral position, then you can actually lift the chin and create space in the neck. So the first thing I want to start with is actually a TVA contraction, or a transversus abdominis contraction, which is your deepest abdominal muscle. For those of you who have never engaged the TVA or are not familiar with that muscle, I'd encourage you to maybe take a look at my YouTube video that shows you how to engage the TVA. Now, for those of you who have been struggling with chronic low back pain, you are quite likely well acquainted with this muscle, but just in the off chance that you have not been acquainted with this muscle, it is one of our primary lumbar stabilizers because of its origin and its insertion. If we have a weak transverse abdominis, which is considered our corset or our deep internal weight belt, we're going to have the opportunity for a lot of movement between those vertebral discs in our low back. So we want to make sure that we're always utilizing our transverse abdominis when we're doing our low back exercises. So starting with a neutral position, we're going to take our feet about shoulder width apart. We're going to stand tall. We're going to maintain that slight curve in our low back. So everyone's curve is a little bit different. We're going to keep that distance open in between our chin and our chest and in our neck. And without flattening our back or doing a pelvic tilt, I'm going to ask you to very gently engage the TVA and hold. If you were doing the Healthy Back program, you would know that this is something that we work up to holding for an entire minute, resting, and then repeating again for a second minute. For most people, that's incredibly challenging, and especially standing up, because you actually require a lot more musculature if you're doing it standing. So now I'm going to relax. I've got a little bit of a lumbar curve, so as soon as I relax, I go into lower doses. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to ensure my weight is evenly distributed. I'm going to maintain a nice, long, upright posture, and then slowly I'm going to engage the TVA, hold, and release. Now, for the second exercise, I'm going to actually go to the complete opposite side of the body. So if we think about the transverse abdominis, quite often people think of it as a frontal muscle because it is an abdominal muscle, but keep in mind that the origin of that deep abdominal muscle actually originates on your 5 lumbar vertebrae. So let's imagine that we were flipping around and we were going to concentrate just on the deep low back muscles, but we're not going to flip around. Again, we're going to keep that Beam just slightly below the nape of our neck. We're going to walk our feet a little bit forward so you're resting very comfortably against the Beam. I'm going to take my arms forward, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to initiate a bridge. So exhaling, I'm going to engage my TVA. I'm going to gently lift my glutes off the Beam, pressing my hips forward towards the opposite wall, then upwards towards the ceiling. And then I'm going to reverse that action one vertebrae at a time. I'm going to release back down onto the Beam. Still a little bit too high. So again, I'm going to take the arms forward. I'm going to press the hips forward, up towards the ceiling, tightening the glutes, engaging the deep low back, and releasing one vertebrae at a time. Now I'm going to add one more component to this, just in case you want to make it just a little bit more difficult. I'm going to press the hips forward, up towards the ceiling, engaging the deep low back, and then I'm going to lift up onto my toes, and you'll definitely feel a deep contraction in the low back and along the paraspinals, or those muscles that are on the left and the right side of the vertebrae. And then again, down onto my heels, one vertebrae at a time. Relax. Now, I'm just going to throw a fun one in there. Since we are in this position, we're almost ready to go into what we would consider a wall sit, but let's try that with the beam. We're going to take our feet just a little bit further forward. We're going to use the beam like a glider. We're going to slide down the wall to wherever you feel comfortable. I'm going to take my arms up. I'm going to gently press my back into the beam, keeping that length between chin and chest and in the neck. Now, the one thing that's very, very important when you're doing this is if I look down, I should be able to see my toes. If I can't see my toes, they're tucked too far underneath me, which is going to be very uncomfortable for a lot of people's knees. So we want to keep the angle of the knee open, or even wider. If we want to bring our feet further forward, we're going to have a more open angle. So holding the arms forward, you could hold this anywhere up to a minute, depending on how strong your quadriceps are. Remember, when you're doing this, don't forget to engage your TVA. When you're done, you're going to slide back up, step back, and release. Now, just changing directions for a moment here, I want to do some shoulder mobility work. Again, it's going to be really important that the beam is just below the nape of the neck so that I can keep that alignment in the neck and shoulders, in the chest, neck, and shoulders. Your feet are going to have to be forward so that you feel like you're resting comfortably against the beam, and we want to maintain our natural curve in our low back. Now, if we take our arms wide, it's as though we're laying on the floor. So chin is up, keep that alignment in the neck. Stretch the arms wide and open up the chest. Now watch what happens if I bend 90 degrees at the elbow. So if you're not careful, what you're going to notice is that you're going to go into a lower dosis or an arch in the low back. As you hold this position, it's very important that you draw that low back in towards the beam, maintaining your natural curve. Now I've got a little bit of a shoulder injury in my left shoulder, and you'll notice I can't quite get this hand to the wall. That's okay, that comes in time. Now from this position, I'm just going to add a couple of other movement patterns that are wonderful for mobilizing tight chest and shoulders. So internal and external rotation in this position works amazing. So does windshield wiper. Maintaining that natural curve, engaging the TVA. If you can't connect the arms to the wall, don't worry. Come off the wall, do the best you can. As you come down, it's almost as though the shoulder blades are going to squeeze the beam between the shoulder blades. We can take that wide into snow angel, seeing how close we can keep our hands connected to the wall. Chin is up. And then the last movement pattern that you could try in this position is hug and open. As you're moving through this, you just want to make sure that you're alternating the top arm. And release. For those of you who are very weak in your postural muscles, you will notice a tremendous amount of fatigue between the shoulder blades through your rhomboid area. So I'm going to encourage you to keep the repetitions very, very low. I would not do more than 5 of each one of those movement patterns. See how you feel the next day before increasing. Now, one other little sequence I want to show you, which would be considered more like hip mobility work, would look like this, starting with simply a single leg stand. Maintain the beam in the exact same position. If I lift one leg off the ground, I require so much stabilizing through that opposite hip. It's really important if you're doing this to bring the knee up and forward, not like a flamingo, that makes it really, really easy, but up and forward. If you're just starting out and you're finding it incredibly difficult or you've had a hip replacement, it would work really well for you to rest the sole of your foot against the wall. So choices are up and forward. Try not to drop into that hip. You want to stay up and tall, maintaining your alignment along the beam. Option 2, rest the foot against the wall. Now, you want to make sure we do both sides. So up, make sure we're not sinking into that hip. We want to stay nice and tall. 30 seconds would be awesome. Option 2, resting the sole of the foot against the wall. Now remember, your pelvis, your sacrum, is attached to the bottom of your spine. So if you have a tremendous amount of instability through your pelvic region, it's going to affect the mechanics of the low back. And a lot of times a very unstable pelvis has a lot to do with chronic low back pain. So the last movement pattern I want to show you is turning the beam horizontally. I want to do some hip stabilization work this way. You're going to stand at an angle. So your feet are out further than your shoulders, and depending on your strength will determine how far out your feet are. You're going to need to take your arms forward in order to get this arm out of the way. So let's take our arms forward. Now, as I raise my inside leg, I want to really push this left hip into the beam, and you'll notice as soon as you do that, you fire up the external hip rotators. And those are primary stabilizers for the pelvis. Let's take a look at our alignment. So we want to make sure that we keep the space open between our neck and our chest. We want to engage our TVA, and we want to push into that beam. If you can hold that for 30 seconds, gold star, because you will find this will burn like crazy in that outer hip, which is interesting. It's almost counterintuitive. You would think it would be the opposite side that you would feel in. So let's place the beam horizontally, get our feet in the right position, take our arms up, open up the space in our neck, lift that inside leg, and press into the beam, firing up that external hip rotator. Holding for 30 seconds, and then release. So this is a really cool sequence of exercises you could do in the office if you were wearing a skirt and you didn't want to get down onto the floor. So I really encourage you to try some of these new exercises if you have a beam. If you don't have a beam, you may want to consider going to Nimbleback. It's an incredibly affordable tool that you could include in your toolbox. And once again, just a reminder, I'm Mia. I'm the creator of the Healthy Back program. And if you're interested in a home program that you can do, takes about between 5 and 7 weeks to complete. For those of you that are living with chronic low back pain, the Healthy Back program is an amazing program. I developed it in 2002, and it's specifically for people who are living with chronic lower back pain. So good luck with these exercises, and I hope to see you at the Healthy Back website.